Hi everyone, Wayne Biebel here, and this is my midterm proposal for Crenshaw Pines Elementary, part of the LA Unified School District and a magnet program. As you can see, I stuck pretty close to the framework provided and chose a smaller class, roughly 840 square feet per classroom, and kept them uniform across the board. I chose to expand the dining hall and focus on food and dining, and as well as a gathering space in the gymnasium. The site analysis shows that the City of Los Angeles has zoned the lot for commercial and services um, to include special project related to the downtown Crenshaw corridor. We're obviously working with occupancy E in education, and the gross square footage is approximately 61,000 square feet, proposing a 3-story building, maxing out at 55 feet high. We can also see that Los Angeles is a semi-arid, very moderate, somewhat stable climate. So stable solar exposure for the most part, humidity and temperatures all kind of pretty stable and predictable. That being said, there is high solar exposure in the summer months and is something to be considered. Also, further considerations are the 100-year flood composite, showing that we do have potential for flooding in the north and northeastern portion of the site. This is also in tandem and due to kind of the geological formation of the hills to the south west, which also kind of provide fodder for fire warning and is a pretty high fire emergency zone. So it does have some ecological risk involved and are to be considered, as well as plate tectonics. Another consideration is the fact that the site is abnormal and is broken from the traditional LA block grid. And so we have this diamond-like or dog bone shaped lot. And though this is a response to the main thoroughfares, we are still able to adhere to the structured grid and use the abnormal lot lines to our advantage for circulation. Here are some 3D explorations of the proposal in sight. We can see that we do adhere to that north, south, east, west grid on the northwestern corner. Taking advantage of that, we created an L-shaped stack building with a dual loaded corridor, as well as creating some unique orientations on the central cafe and gymnasium in the southern portions of the lot. An interior view heading in from the northwest entrance, which is probably the administrative or on-foot entrance. So this is looking from the administrative offices down the hallway as you enter the building. My initial precedent analysis was of the open-air school in Amsterdam from the 1920s, but I was still seeking further information and wanting to replicate something I couldn't quite put my thumb on. And then I started to think back what idolized education spaces look like maybe through cinema and television. And so I discovered that the Ulysses S. Grant High School in LA is actually very famous in actually all of these documented in cinema quite heavily. And so, images, empowering images of free space, cool collection areas, covered circulation, exterior trees. This kind of activity on campus seemed very freeing and empowering for students, especially when projected from cinema. And so I analyzed that and was happy to see that it was pretty regimented, using efficient double-loaded corridors, L shapes, or kind of slab structures, but they were connected with sky bridges, which also created a cordon-off type environment, keeping the education space very kind of secluded from, the public, but also very open. And so I kind of applied that to the site. I found that the grid was somewhat compatible, and was able to take one of these L-shaped double-loaded corridors and do some small reorientation, mimicking that the gymnasium and the cafeteria are kind of southern to the back of the house, whereas the education is present on the street but kind of impenetrable. And so, again, using that site circulation for on-off circulation, we were able to kind of use that abnormal 45-degree for a circulation. And in the overwhelming partie here, we can see that, by just kind of separating these two larger buildings, or smaller buildings, the cafe and kitchens, and the kind of a more of a dry house hall, the gymnasium, we can kind of expand the campus. And though we don't have as much space for courtyards, we do have the ability to apply sky bridges, something that is exciting and keeps the architecture active, and again, kind of a sense of empowerment and play. And we can see that with some of the abstractions or subtractions of corners with 45-degree angles, also mimicked in the Art Deco or Spanish Mediterranean revival, the Vision Theater, we can see that that allows for some airflow and natural lighting to penetrate the building, as well as using this L shape kind of allows for us to get some cross ventilation as well. And again, taking note of this kind of overwhelming site circulation, we were able to kind of partition off the site, but also make room for approximately 12 full-size school buses. And so the back of the house is very active, and though it does kind of have a lot of activity going on here, it is still kind of visible from the street. The egress diagram focused heavily on ample, maybe to the highest extent of having extra egress in case of emergency. So we have a central egress and the ability to kind of leave the building from pretty much any location, any wing. In plan, we stay pretty consistent and repetitive. The lower levels having more staff and service components towards the front administrative northwestern portion there. And then we also have kind of in the corner, we're able to put kind of like a service basement, which could also act as a structural rigidity for the overwhelming structure, especially in consideration to plate tectonics. Again, the plan somewhat repeats for level 2 and 3, and on the roof, we do have a lot of potential for green roof activities and utilization of this space for play and or projects, scientific, agricultural, again, trying to maximize every square inch of the site. In section, we kind of see that, again, the egress is kind of a major part of the design. These are, I chose a donut stair to kind of create, again, activity, empowerment, and some play. This is also encased in glazing, which kind of exposes and blurs the line between the site and the public. And just kind of a looking glass into the activity that may be going in on site. Here we have an eastern elevation and a southern elevation, kind of very simple structure that kind of plays with there's a 3-foot slope from actually the south. So we have to raise a little bit, and again to avert that flooding. And so there's a couple stairs into the front and then kind of leveling out towards the Vision Theater. Here's a programmatic diagram, and again, quite repetitive, quite simple. Massive kind of egress, which also dual facilitates kind of the porosity of the classrooms into open common areas, and again offers activity and collaboration and ample egress. Thanks for your time.